Okay, day two of what's going to be a 3-day thing. So, last 2 days, you remember, I tore this apart, glued this back together. It's been sitting overnight, clamped. I tightened the crap out of the bolt hole here. Then, of course, discovered a crack over here. So, I've removed the bolt, or at least I backed it out. I did put a clamp on here. It does clamp up nice and tightens up. So I dug out some of the debris in the crack and put a bunch of glue in there. Glue is working because it's dripping on the floor. And now I'm going to tighten it back up and clean the glue up, and hopefully it will stay good. I see I have another one here, but once I get this tightened up, and I really cranked on the other one, like thought it was gonna break. So what I do is I clamp with the clamps first to get it in a position, then I tighten it up with the bolt. So, yay. So, oh, and then looking carefully at the sink fits in the hole. The problem is that when it gets down to the bottom, you got this radius curve. That's where it gets tight. So, given that the bottom fits fine and it's almost straight, pretty straight, I'm just going to come around the outside with the round over bit. So this nice little Harbor Freight round over guy, and I think that's going to provide the relief I need for the outside. If that doesn't work, then we'll have to come back in. This is a pain to cut straight and pretty. So you can see here I used a saw. Really don't have a lot of room here for another plunge saw attempt. So hopefully the router will do. It certainly can't make it worse. And it was in there for 12 years, even though it was too tight. It is still white shit all over the place. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. The sun's out, that's somewhat new, but yeah, I woke up to this white stuff. It's weird. Okay, so we tightened the joint up, got rid of the glue, tightened the crap out of the bolt. Hurt myself in the meantime because I tried to drill this little sucker out, which is a little bit too small of a hole. That's from heat. I used a Cobalt drill bit, barely got through it. It took me 15 minutes. It's really hard to hold a washer. Cut myself twice, and then it's still not big enough, so I said, screw it. It's really dense. I think it's unobtainium. I have no fucking clue. Normally, like a carbon steel, I would have been through that in seconds. So I used the router and I rounded over the sinkhole to hopefully provide relief for the chamfer on the sides. So she fits better and she pops down there. So I think we're good to go. I did ease the edge a little bit with this rasp, which is why there's more sawdust. So basically just gonna take the edge here and go like this. Creating more mess. I was pleasantly surprised to see the router, once I rotated the shorter side, actually got in here a little bit. So next step is to vacuum and clean up, and then I'm gonna go downstairs and see if I can find some clear silicone to glue this back in. As before, this whole side was completely anchored. I had to pry it out, so silicone is amazing stuff when used on flat surfaces like this. Holds up everything. If I don't have it, of course, I'll have to brave whatever the hell is going on out there and go buy some at the local hardware store. So I've routed this, eased it over with the wood file. Now the sink just drops right in like it should. So I'm ready to glue it up with the clear silicone, but I don't have any clear silicone. So I went downstairs one more time to look, and the weather guys must have heard me say that I gotta go to the hardware store, because look at this fucking shit. Hello, Spring. Where are you? It's me, Margaret. Okay, this stuff's stinky. So got clear silicone. I bought the special kind of the anti-mold, and I put 2 passes around the perimeter here. Oops. And then I put a pass around the perimeter here. So she's gonna sit pretty well. So we'll basically just put her down, I guess. Yeah, there's the instructions. Didn't know there were instructions for a set. Okay, so the next step is to clean up the excess. But I had a neighbor growing up, the Stanhopes, and they were an older couple, so they had lots of toys, and they divorced in, I think it was 77, 76, and they ended up moving away, so they had a garage sale, and they're giving stuff away. They were in their 50s, so they had lots of stuff. One of the things I got is this. She's about 35 pounds of solid lead. If I recall properly, she was used as an anchor for a small boat. So I don't know why at one point I thought I could cut it. So I've had this thing since, well, 77. So today we're going to put it in the bottom of the sink. That's going to weigh the sink down in while it dries. So yeah, finally got a legitimate need or use. Okay, so I removed most of the excess silicone, and I put in my 30-pound weight. While I was in the basement looking for the silicone that I ended up buying, I found the Butcher Block stuff. So I don't know why I have 2 cans. I must have bought some at a garage sale. Looks like we put 2 coats on, 6 hours between recoating. So I'm gonna wait for this to dry. Then we'll go over this lightly with steel wool and put some coats on there. So 72 hours. Yeah, may get used before then. I used this before. It works pretty well. Wax is probably better, but I need something to seal the wood, especially because of the few cracks we have. So onwards and upwards. Okay, well, we have these outdoor lights, and had them for about 10 years, and unfortunately they don't work. What's really odd is none of the lights here worked. But I checked power at the end of this row on the connectors here, and sure enough, there's 12 volts when the system's on. So I determined it was all the bulbs. So one of the Amazons or the eBays, probably the Amazons, and I got some of these LEDs. So these will just slide right in. You can see I fixed the first one. The LED should last longer and draw less electricity, blah, blah, blah. So the only challenge is getting it in. And of course, there's 2 ways for it to work. So it just slides in there. So both of these slid in without any work. I wonder if they made these bi-compatible, that you can go either positive or negative. Odd. Okay, that worked out pretty well. So there's 4. I think there's 1 more out there, but it's freaking cold out here, so we'll do that at another. So I got some new LED light bulbs and replaced all the mushrooms. All the other lights on this string are out. I'm gonna have to replace the connectors, but these are all back and working. So last fall, I was cutting up some wood to make some primitive benches in southern Ohio, and this was a scrap piece. I believe it's ash, and I brought it home. It's been sitting outside conditioning for a year. While it's got a big bend in the middle, I think I could get a 1-inch plank out of this. So I've tuned up the sides. I first used a circular saw outside, and then I got that flat. Then I debarked it with a draw knife over there, and kind of got this a little bit flatter. Then I did a couple passes on the table saw, just kind of flatten this out. But I don't know, something to play with. I think it's gonna look really fine. I did a little bit of hand planing right here. It's got some really cool green to it. But if you look down the middle, if I take a straight edge, it's actually not that bad. I should be able to get a 1-inch piece out of this. So I got a wood planer over there that I will take outside when it's warmer, and I'll set it up and let her rip. Those blades are almost shot anyhow, so this will be a fun little piece of wood to work on. I've never taken raw wood like that and made something out of it. Well, not a shelf like. So this morning I lightly sanded this, scraped it, sanded it, got most of the old finish off. And then of course in the morning I turned the faucet on for the cat. About 5 minutes later I realized I hadn't hooked up the drain, so the water went everywhere while the fan's running to dry this out. So that was stupid. The cat was happy. She just let the cat lick on the lid. So anyhow, so then I did a light scratch coat, literally, with some steel wool. I couldn't find any 400 grit. I didn't look that hard, so I used this. Just kind of got it on there. The last coat I'm going to use a brush, foam brush for, because I want to lay down a thick, even coat. So I'll be sanding this, and then wait 72 hours, which I think will be Sunday, and we're done. Yay! The sun found us. I think they sent it up from Florida. Oh, it looks bright out there. It's still like 36 degrees, but it's supposed to be in the 60s tomorrow. Yay. What's the monkey doing here? I don't trust this monkey. What are you doing there, monkey? Oh, Winnie Cooper. Looks like it's broke. Flat tire. How realistic. So, about a year ago, I bought a worm composter. So basically, it's this device, it's made out of PVC and then cloth and a zip tie on the bottom. And I set it up around May and bought, I think it was 1 pound or 2 pounds of worms. So it worked well till about September. Then the fruit flies came. A lot of fruit flies. Everywhere. So in the morning I would wake up and I'd go downstairs and I'd vacuum up fruit flies. And I would come down and I made little cups of apple cider vinegar. Learned to buy the really good stuff with the mother, which apparently is the apple crap. I don't know what the mother is. And they would fly in there and die, and I'd be working by computer, and then I'd be ingesting flies. So unfortunately you can't put the worms out in 20-degree weather. They will die. Especially the shock of being like in the 60s down here pretty much year round and then going outside. So we started the fun task of cleaning up, and we're going to move it outside. I got a few months to figure out how to enclose this, and I think I'm just going to build a shelter around it. And the heat it generates should keep itself warm. I just need to keep it like out of the elements. And I'm gonna have to build something in the short term, maybe just a piece of plywood to keep the rain off of it. But she's getting evicted, and her 20,000 or so friends. Didn't expect this mess. I put a bowl underneath it, apparently overflowed. Now I had bags, plastic wrap on top of this. I had 2 sheets of plastic wrap, and I always kept that zippily tied. Didn't matter, fruit flies still got out. I'd see them crawling around. I'd come down and change the litter and vacuum them. So I was a little surprised to see all that, but that'll wash up. Drains right there. So unfortunately you can't move this when it's full of dirt. So this is like 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, which is 27 cubic feet, which weighs about 10 pounds a foot. So it's like 270 pounds. I could barely even lift some of the edges without it popping apart to put the plastic underneath her. So she's almost empty. Now I will say that I thought the worms were dead because I didn't see any coming out, but today when I opened the top, worms are outside. I don't know how they got out. Maybe they were born small and came out. I don't know. Had a little fun draining the bowl because it was full, and then the piece was dangling. That's the piece that allows you to take the dirt out nicely, which has never worked for me. But the dirt's really good. It needs to be cleaned. There's some worms in there, which you'd expect. It didn't stink much. In fact, it smells fine right now. I haven't seen any fruit flies. I think I finally killed them over time, but I didn't feed this for about a month. That's why I was concerned that they might have died. But they just burrowed down in the dirt and kept eating. So next step is to move this. I think I'm actually going to have to at least I got to take it apart. There's no way I can get the stairs and There's crap everywhere. So I'll take it apart. Put it outside. I'm assuming that this weekend's the last one. Looks like I dropped a worm. And then these are the buckets. This is why I save buckets. Weird crap like this, mulch. This is the recent stuff. So I put paper in. I've been shredding all my junk mail. Then as I went down the hole, I found things like the temperature probe, the stick I was using. That's the last bucket. So 5.5 buckets, and I could probably fill that bucket with what's left. So it held a lot. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna definitely dump those two back in, and I'll bring some paper out, maybe those two, but I gotta sort the worms, so I'll probably just dump it all back in there. I don't know, but I wanted it is chronological order so that I dump the bottom at the bottom and the top at the top. So fun. So it's Sunday and it's finally decent weather, above freezing. So over a year ago, this was overheating, meaning you drive it, it would overheat, check for fluid, there's plenty of fluid, and I needed to change the timing belt because it had never been changed. It's like 120,000 miles on there. So last summer on the lift, yes, Jack, what? He looks pissed as always. I changed the belt and the water pump, and the water pump, all the plastic impellers are broken, so the water pump definitely is a problem. So the water pump was spinning but not actually moving any fluid, hence the system would overheat. And it was real bare because well, there's the engine, and the timing belt goes down there. She also goes around here and down there around the water pump. And there's an idler here, there's a spring on that, and there's a motor mount in there, and she's a real pain. So of course there's a little mark right down here, a little tiny mark. There's some marks on here, and the dots were here and the mark was here. So I had two choices. I could line them here. Actually, it was more like I could line them here or here if the mark was here. I put them back. I retarded it. Well, apparently that pissed off the computer. You can adjust for too much advance but not enough. So I need to move this one tooth over. Just kind of pick that belt up and move it over. So not wanting to take this all apart because you gotta raise and lower the engine, you gotta take out all this crap. It wasn't fun, and there was some swearing, and every time I touched this I swear I got cut. I thought I would just loosen this, take the tension off the belt beforehand, then move it. And to do that I need to take off the serpentine belt and the cover that was on here so that I can paint a mark on here and clamp this so she doesn't go anywhere. Because when I loosen the tension, gravity's going to pull that down. So that was my plan. What wasn't part of my plan is I thought that the water cooler or the heater core was leaking, which is way buried in there. So my thought plan was to fix on this, then take the whole dash apart. No point in doing this if this doesn't work. What I didn't anticipate is this. My new water pump is apparently leaking. Probably due to the install, I don't know. So now at this point, to fix this leak, I need to take the timing belt off because she's right down there. It's the water pump. And in fact, I can't even figure out how to get that cover off without taking the motor mount out. So ironically, while this was going to be a 10-hour job, but deterministic, and this is going to be a 2-hour job, it's now going to be a longer job. So I got to think on this a little bit. But I'm pretty sure I got to remove I definitely got to remove the belt to get, I don't know. I got to get that cover off and figure out where the leak is coming from. But I knew it was leaking, but when I started up and moved it, I would see a leak. I didn't gauge where that leak was on the driveway. But when I was working here, it was clearly dripping on me. So the heater core is, well, to give you an idea, the connections are way back there. So if you assume the firewall is here, the heater core, I think, is over here. Yet, like over here, my leak is right there. And there's a puddle at the bottom. So, yay. So I guess it's a good thing is maybe I don't have to take that apart. Just wasn't expecting this. So the pump, once I can get my eyes on it, it's either leaking out of the seal of the pump, the shaft, at which point I guess I send it back a year later, I buy a new one, or I didn't tighten it enough and it's leaking around where I don't even remember what I put on there. Maybe it's RTV, maybe there's a gasket, I don't know. It's been over a year. Well, it's been 9 months, so yay. Meanwhile, it is nice out. The grass is coming. The tree blossoms from that tree are pretty much were all over my driveway. I blew those off. Looks like the dying ash tree is getting leaves. That's good. But the oak tree, she lost most of her buds. That maple's looking like she's gonna have flowers, so we should have tree. Oh, again, there's some more over there. Maybe we'll get the. No, we're not gonna get the drone out because now we see the trees are moving. Okay, I gotta deal with this cat. I don't know what the hell his problem is. What up, Jack? He's just pissed. He's always pissed. So there you go. So there's the water pump right there. And you can see by the rust, it looks pretty clean. Underneath, however, you can see some goo. So I'm pretty certain either I didn't torque that to the right torques, probably gave it all the torques, or the gasket's leaking, or something's wrong there. But it's definitely, you can see some goo there where it's coming from, and it's coming straight down and hitting there. Unfortunately, the best way to test this is to start the engine, but as I've got a lot of it disconnected, it probably wouldn't run. So my thought process is I'm going to pull that, take an internal look. I don't think it's leaking from the outside of the shaft because it'd be coming down. It seems to be leaking right at the bottom there. You can also see some wetness underneath there, so see the yuckies. So that's my current plan. I'll go from there. So I realized I just need to hook up one sensor, battery charger, to let it run. Time to go on it. Just need to put this sensor She's not running happy because somebody disconnected the intake. So let's take a look, see what's leaking. There she's coming out of there. That's definitely more than I thought. What the? Where are you? Really hard to see right there. Yeah, there's a good stream. It's coming from the inside. Help me understand. It is coming from the water pump inside. I don't know. See how it's coming? I tightened this water pump up and thought that'd make a difference. Evidently not. I'm pretty sure it's a bad water pump. Oh, that makes me really mad. Okay, welcome to A Dad, Life of a Dad. So today we're on the roof. I used leaf blower to blow off all the crap, which most of the leaf seedlets that didn't take because of the snow and shit. This roof's about 12 years old. Did not have fun putting this up here. Next time it's going to be even worse because I'm going to replace the rafters, get this dip out of here that crap sits on. It's not the water doesn't drain, it's just the crap sits on. It looks like my tank's leaking. And so I'm spraying a Never Moss, which I think I've done twice before. It doesn't seem to be working too well, but I have it, so I'm going to spray that. Of course, the sprayer keeps getting clogged because it's full of crap because I dragged out the trash 15 years ago or so. But we'll proceed. It's nice up here. Often I find myself on top of the roof, not wanting to come back down. Odd.